my name is Jenna B, and thank you for watching my Cryptids YouTube channel. And if you're like me and you like cryptids from the ancient past and present day, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. On this video, I plan to investigate the state of New Mexico, looking for cryptids from both the ancient past and present day. And I do this by looking at the petroglyphs there, and I look for signs of ancient civilizations. And then I also look for reports of giant skeletons that were found back in usually in the 1800s or early 1900s. And since I am a landscape oil painter and photographer, I look for natural wonders in the state, and I found a lot of those. I favorited so many different places and just show you where I would go if I was going to be visiting that state. When I first started, I had to make the video about Chaco Canyon and the Anasazi, just specifically, before I could even attempt to make a video about New Mexico. And that's a whole video within itself. So if you're interested in that, then I recommend you watching that video on my YouTube channel about the skinwalkers and the Anasazi and Chaco Canyon and their migration. I'm starting in the Four Corners region of New Mexico, which is a very important place in history. And, you know, the Anasazi occupied that entire area. As far as the cryptids being reported in New Mexico in historical times, recommend some of these researchers, J.C. Johnson from Crypto Four Corners. And J.C. Johnson was somebody who commented on some of my Bigfoot research way back when I was very first starting, and it really meant a lot to me. He was a really nice person, and he really used to get out there in New Mexico in the Four Corners region and was reporting dogmen and all kinds of stuff. His interviews are so scary, and you can hear them on Phantoms and Monsters on YouTube, which, you know, has really great research about cryptids all over and in New Mexico. And also dogman encounters. They have quite a few interviews coming from people in New Mexico, and that is an excellent source for all your wolfman, dogman, werewolf, cryptid stories coming, you know, out of North America. The most significant thing I saw right away was a place called Shiprock. These features must have been markers in history because they're so, you can't miss them. It's important to mention the cities in New Mexico because when you get to the lower part of New Mexico, they're so far and few between. It's really important to know where they are and kind of have them as a base when you're going to these other more remote locations in New Mexico. So Farmington is sort of the first city starting from that Four Corners region. Down to the south, which is where you're going to come to a place that I have to mention. It's called Bitsi de Nazin. Bitsi de Nazin, and it's a wilderness area with these rock formations that they resemble all kinds of things, and they're so strange and prehistoric. I don't know how much we can really say about what they are, what they were, or how they were formed. Then right under there, you're going to come to Chaco Canyon. And Chaco Canyon has so many places that, you know, I'm not going to get into all of them, but it is just one of the most amazing places, not just in the United States, not just in New Mexico, but on the planet. There's the Galena, and I mentioned in a story about the Anasazi, the story of the Galena and what happened when they came into contact with the Jemez. And in the Nogales, these Nogales cliff ruins, those are ruins from giants. Dulce I have marked because Dulce is very well known in the paranormal community for being where there's this underground test lab with aliens and Phil Schneider was involved. That's where he got his injuries, where his fingers were cut off. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in Dulce. Don't underestimate those rumors. What's interesting is Albuquerque. Albuquerque is a central city in New Mexico, but it was a central location for ancient people also. And, you know, when you're in Albuquerque, Albuquerque is just surrounded with, there's the Petroglyph Monument. This is a very widespread area. I don't know if it's because it hasn't been completely turned into farmland and, you know, overrun with cities, and that's why there's so many petroglyphs. And then there's this one place called the Sandia Mountains, and there's a Sandia Cave, and it's in New Mexico. It's also called Sandia Man Cave, and it's an archaeological site in the Cibola National Forest. This is according to Wikipedia, but I've also found it in other places. It says, Sandia points interpreted by Hibben as being much older than any evidence of man in North America. Faunal remains include extinct Pleistocene mammals. So he was saying that the Sandia man was older than the Clovis, making this man hundreds of thousands of years old. Of course, all of this is still up for debate. Travertine Falls. Travertine doesn't happen unless some ancient weathering has taken place. There's a few rivers flowing through New Mexico. They're going to be very significant just because it's such a dry landscape. So the Rio Grande. Now, I have heard about the Rio Grande. It's almost notorious, meaning there's all kinds of legends and stories coming from that location. Moving down to the bottom part of the state, and you've got Las Cruces is an important city. You've got the White Sands, and at the White Sands there is evidence, footprints from prehistoric days of some humans going after a large creature, large dinosaur-y type creature, like a sloth of some kind. Okay, one of the most significant spots up here is the Three Rivers petroglyphs. And then you've got Roswell, where a UFO crashed. And, you know, there's UFO sightings out here. Let's be real. But when you get to this part of the state, there's really only two significant things that I found. One being a place called Clovis, and the other above it being a place called Folsom. Apparently, these are the Folsom site is where this ancient race of humans existed, and I guess that and they're also known for these arrowheads that, you know, they're different than Native Americans. Let's just put it that way. Were here before them, and even before the Folsom were the Clovis people, who also had their own designs for arrowheads. Only the difference between the Clovis is that A, they were older, B, their arrowheads are gigantic. They were hunting woolly mammoths. They were giants, probably, likely. This whole area of New Mexico, it's so undeveloped that New Mexico could be the new Egypt. I also want to bring up this place called Garden of the Gods, because it has some incredible rock formations that resemble different creatures, And another important site to see is going to be this place called Kasha Katui Tent Rocks. It reminds me of somewhere you would see in, I feel like there's got to be an underground going on here. Okay, this article is from the New York Times, published February 11th, 1902. And it says, Giant Skeletons Found. Archaeologists descend expedition to explore graveyards in New Mexico where bodies were unearthed. Owing to the discovery of the remains of a race of giants in Guadalupe, New Mexico, antiquarians and archaeologists are preparing an expedition to further explore that region. This determination is based on the excitement that exists among the people of a scope of a country near Mesa Rico, about 200 miles southeast of Las Vegas, where an old burial ground has been discovered that has yielded skeletons of enormous size. Luciana Quintana, on whose ranch the ancient burial plot is located, discovered 2 stones that bore curious inscriptions, and beneath these were found in shallow excavations the bones of a frame that could not have been less than 12 feet in length. The men who opened the grave say that the forearm was, I can't read that number, feet long, and that in a well-preserved jaw, the lower teeth range from the size of a hickory nut to that of the largest walnut in size. The teeth did. The chest of the being is reported as having a circumference of 7 feet. Quintana, who has uncovered many other burial places, expresses the opinion that perhaps thousands of skeletons of a race of giants long extinct will be found. This supposition is based on the traditions handed down from the early Spanish invasion that have detailed knowledge of the existence of a race of giants that inhabited the plains of what now is eastern New Mexico. Indian legends and carvings also in the same section indicate the existence of such a race. Wow. And then there's one more I want to read. The Vanished Race, a building that housed 6,000 cliff dwellers. A ruined aboriginal city on a cliff 1,000 feet high, skulls of people that had double teeth all around, some remarkable relics. Laden with relics of the vanished race of cliff dwellers, the Reverend Dr. George L. Cole has returned from a journey to the ruined cities of southeastern Colorado and New Mexico. Valuable results were secured by excavations in an ancient communal dwelling, as yet unnamed, which stands on the cliffs of the Santa Fe River, 14 miles from Espanola, New Mexico. And then it says, this is the largest pueblo yet discovered and that article is cut off right there. But I did some research. I found Espanola in New Mexico, and then I found the Santa Fe River. And then right in that location, there is a petroglyph site called the La Cienguilla petroglyphs. And there's hundreds of Kachina petroglyphs, and I found some of Kachinas being attacked. Then there's also reports of large, either pterodactyl type birds or some sort of large birds coming from New Mexico, especially around the Rio Grande. The environment, the habitat for this type of creature in New Mexico is perfect. And so I do believe there are some truth to these large birds and stuff. Then there's this kind of crossover that does happen with giants and the prehistoric people that lived in these ruins. I do believe that some escaped underground, and I do believe that they weren't 100%.
Had no choice but to run and hide. Otherwise, we surmised we were facing genocide. So we climbed this mountain just to stay alive. You see, we knew that up here SMALLFOOT could not survive. So it was here the first law was written in stone. It was named and proclaimed as a truth to be known. Our world is an island, floats on a sea of endless clouds. That's how it would be. Then we wrote more laws, more rules to obey. For the sake of us all, it was the only way to protect us from all of the human ravages heaped upon us by those human savages. And new rules apply. So it's best just to let it lie.